Hey, what is going on guys? This is Tharshey and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we'll be looking at the ultimate composition for your formations. So I hope you guys do enjoy this video, and if you do, please do drop a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on those post notifications. Anyways, let's get straight into it. So as I said, we are going to be having a look at the best way to build your formation, or should I say your army as a whole, and what composition of commanders you should have in it. So we're going to go over what I used to have, and I think I still have some old reports we can look at. Then we're going to go and look at what I currently am running and see how we're doing. Though obviously I don't have reports with my new formation composition yet, with opponents of similar level has mostly been absolute whales that have just destroyed me, but I think overall it's doing a lot better. So first of all, let's talk about the types of commanders you have, right? So you have your damage commanders, which are commanders like Gimli, Galadriel, any commander that does most of the damage themselves. Aragorn 2 is another option. Then you have your army damage commanders, aka commanders that are still damage based. However, their skills are focused on buffing your army to do most of the damage. So commanders like, Theoden, commanders like Eowyn, Gandalf the Great to an extent slightly, but not really, Gil-galad, etc. And then you have your third category, which is basically your support commanders, aka commanders that make sure the rest of your commanders in your formation or in your army survive long enough to do the damage. So stuff like Gandalf the Grey, he has a lot of support skills for damage reduction, for healing, etc. Gil-galad has evasion. He's also got skills that buff your other units. I think it's hiking. Yeah, see, this increases defense for allied formations. You have stuff like Frodo and Sam. You have Arwen who can do healing. You have a bunch of commanders that are purely support based. Now, when you're building an army, okay, we're going to use the word army or the term army when talking about all four commanders in a army and formation for an individual commander within the army. So when you're building an army, you have four choices, right? And you don't want to make them all damage, otherwise they're all just going to die really early without being able to actually output any of the damage that you want them to. So what is the composition you should go for? Well, I think 2 damage and 2 support, or at least 2 commanders that are a mix of support with some damage. Now what I mean by that is a commander like Gandalf the Grey, right? If we go and have a look, and we have a look at him, we can see he's got skills that are support based, for example, White Council and the Grey. Then he's got skills like Mithrandir, which is not a support skill because it just focuses on increasing the amount of damage his army does. So this is a damage skill for all intents and purposes. And then he has Wizard, which is also a damage skill. So he's a mixed commander. He can do damage and he can support. So I think the best composition is having 2 pure damage commanders. For example, for my army, it is Gimli and Galadriel. I have a Gimli formation, I have a Galadriel formation. Those are my 2 damage formations. I used to run a third damage formation in the form of Aragorn 2, but honestly, what would happen most of the time is he would die without doing much damage because his troops just would not survive long enough to keep him alive. He would die, he wouldn't output that much damage, and it was a waste of time. And because of that, my other 2 commanders would be taking damage much earlier, and they also wouldn't perform as well. Now I've changed it up to run Galadriel and Gimli as my 2 damage commanders. And then I have a mixed commander in the form of Gandalf the Grey, who is doing some damage and some support. And then I have Gil-galad, who's literally only here because of Kingly Kin, which is giving evasion to basically my entire army. I know it only affects 3 formations, but with Shire Protectors on, it makes the Bow Knights take the hit for them, and the Bow Knights get affected by the Kingly Kin, and therefore he provides 2 rounds of evasion for my entire army. And this is the main reason I have him, okay? I'll eventually, once I have him at a high enough respect level, I will put points into Alliance Leader or High King, at which point he'll become a bit more balanced with some support and some damage output as well. But now though, he's basically just support. So I run 2 support commanders now, or 2 mixed support commanders if you want to say, along with the 2 damage commanders. So let's go have a look at some reports. I don't think we actually, let's see, PvP, Tactician, that's fine. Okay, now let's see if we have any actual battle reports here. No, okay, well this kind of is, but this is on my secondary formation, which is all just army buff commanders or army damage commanders. And in the case of these cav commanders, let me just show you this formation, right? in this case, you don't really need that exact composition because every single one of these commanders is buffing units already, and they're buffing them both for damage as well as for healing and support. So you could say all four of these commanders are mixes of army damage and support. So you basically have four mixed commanders here, which is why you don't see two specific damage, two specific support, etc. But if we go look at my main formation, if I can actually get a report where it's fighting something. No, yes, maybe. I mean, we can still have a look at this, but you can see, oh, this is older. This is where I was running Aragorn still. Interesting. Okay. No. Okay, we're gonna need to go over to battle reports and scroll back a bit until we can find a report from myself. We can even actually have a look at some of the other formations my fellowship is running and see what they're doing. But I'm gonna look more for my own reports if I can find them. Okay, we should be coming up. There we go. This is a report against a solo player, and they were full as well. But we can see here, I have 2 damage commanders and 2 support commanders, right? So Gimli performed really well. He hit 125,000 damage. Galadriel hit just under 90k. My 2 mixed commanders did okay. Gil-galad with 34k, and he's got all the army damage gear, and then Gandalf has all the focus base gear, and he did 42k here. But if we have a look now at the detailed battle report, right, we can see that, well, Gandalf did some damage, you know. So if we have a look at his command damage, he did some damage. It took a little bit. His soldiers did some damage as well because of the dual blows, but they tanked a lot of damage. And while they tanked all their damage, it allowed Galadriel and Gimli to survive very long and just do most of the damage. And if we have a look at the skills, wait, can we actually see what skills we're running on him here? Oh wait, yeah, we can. Perfect. We see the skills he was running, right? We had Mithrandir, which obviously increased his army damage. We had White Council, and this is very important because this allows all my formations to basically have a lot of damage reduction. Even with just purple focus gear, I believe he was giving like 50% damage reduction. We can have a look at that. And then you had Gil-galad with Kingly Kin giving evasion, which was very helpful. So we're going to have a look here. Okay, now we should look at one of the enemies attacking so we can see the actual stuff that happens. So you can see, yeah, there we go. So Imrahil attacks, right? Gandalf the Grey gives Bone Knight information for 52% less damage received. So that is minus 50% damage. That's going to allow my, the Bone Knights on him to survive a lot longer. And remember, I have Gil-galad as well, right? And Gil-galad's there to give evasion. So this only comes into effect. This Gandalf the Grey effect for White Council only comes in if the avoidance from Kingly Kin doesn't work. So you can see over here, Gil-galad's formation 3 did not affect Bone Knight formation 4. So my Bone Knights on Gandalf were not affected. Therefore, Gandalf's skill then activated and gave them 52% less damage received. But if we look over here, Shire protected by Bone Knights, the Bone Knights get avoidance by Kingly Kin, and the Bone Knights avoid all attacks. So it's not using up Gandalf's damage reduction. So that is absolutely huge, right? Because if you have a look at the skill, so it's 7, right? So the first 7 hits taken will be affected by White Council and they'll have the damage reduction. But for those first 2 rounds, most of the hits are going to be misses because of evasion, right? Unless they have something like Pursuit, which counters evasion, Unless they have that, most of the time, my units are going to evade the damage, and this is not going to be called in. So then from round 3 now, when Gandalf's White Council actually starts to take place, that's when I'm going to start getting his minus 52% damage reduction for the first 7 attacks. So that means first 2 rounds, I'm not going to take much damage. I'm going to be able to do full damage. And then the round, so the 3rd and 4th round, even though I won't have avoidance, I'm still going to have damage reduction, which allows my units and my commanders to survive that much longer. So for like the first 3 to 4 rounds, I'm going to be able to do full damage basically without taking too much of damage myself. So if we have a look, right, round 1, we didn't take much. Round 2, we literally didn't take much. Round 3, we took a bit more damage now because we're no longer avoiding it, but that probably would be double that amount if it wasn't for Gandalf the Grey. Round 4, took a little bit of damage, and by that time, this guy is already down a lot of troops. We still at 7k, he's down to like under 5,000 troops. So now he's going to be doing a lot less damage overall, we're going to be doing a lot more, and from there we're just going to wipe his army as we go down the rounds until the end where we ended, and he barely had anything left, and we only lost about 2k troops. So yeah, it's, I think, best formation, 2 damage commanders along with, and when I say damage commander, you can go for an army damage commander as well, but you just have to take into account whether he's also got some, support skills. If he does, then you can maybe put in another pure damage commander if you wanted, or you can have a more mixed bag of support / army damage, just depending on what commanders you're using. Like my second formation, which is all cav commanders and who all have both damage skills and support, so I just run 4 mixed commanders rather than two specific. But for my main formation, I have my 2 main damage dealers here, and then I have my 2 support guys in Gandalf the Grey and Guildful Lad. I used to run Aragorn 2 for the longest time, so I had 3 damages with only 1 support, but honestly the problem was I just never survived to round 10. My troops died too early, and the damage output because of that was much lower, and so I just wouldn't do well enough. Like Aragorn would mostly die and only do like 40k damage, and my other 2 commanders would do even less because they didn't have the support. Now that Aragorn is out, Gandalf the Grey is doing the same amount of damage, basically 40k, but because of his support skills, Gimli and Galadriel are surviving a lot longer and doing a lot more damage overall. But yeah, if you guys have enjoyed this video, please do drop a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let me know down below in the comment section what formation, or should I say what army you are running, what are the 4 formations within that army, and what composition of commanders are you using. Are you using mixed commanders? Are you using all commander damage? Are you using all army damage? Are you using like 2 support, 2 damage, 3 support, 1 damage? What is your mix for your army? But I'll see you guys in the next video.